Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the future and how as you grow older you start to lose track of what's going on in the now, and it starts to become a little bit overwhelming with regards to what's going on. Now, I'm obviously not an old person, right? But I've never really been very good at keeping up with the times. I've never been good at keeping up with the new technology. I didn't get a smartphone until 2016. And that was only so that I could text one person, like WhatsApp text one person. If it hadn't been for that, I might not have got a smartphone for another 3 years after that. And I remember when I got the smartphone, I really didn't want it. I felt like I was giving in to this larger, quite evil entity, this evil presence that seems to infest and infect everybody. Because you go on the train and whatever, and you see everybody out there is on the train is kind of like this, you know, just scrolling through endless feeds and so on and so forth. And you know, I did all that on the computer, but I didn't want to have the ability to access that whenever I wanted. And obviously I could have gone for one of those sort of smart/dumb phones, or I could have like gone through all the settings and turned off all the internet, but you don't really do that. Like, I've done all sorts. At the moment I keep my phone in French time. I'm obviously not in France, right? But I use my phone 1 hour ahead. So I keep it on French time, right? And the reason that I do that is that it kind of forces my brain to go to bed a little bit earlier, and it forces my body clock to be a little bit out of sync with what it should be, because otherwise I'm a total night owl. So it's kind of killing an hour at the end point of the day and adding one at the beginning point of the day. So for me that kind of works. Before that I had a long phase where I had the phone in black and white, because obviously all the apps and stuff on your phone, they all have big bright colors. It's the same reason McDonald's has big red and big yellow letters, right? Because the really bright, high contrast, highly saturated colors really draw you in. The same way that your eyes are probably being drawn to the buses right there. Actually, I'm not going to point because your eyes are naturally being drawn to the buses that are behind me, because they're brightly colored and they're distinct. That's why advertising works so well, is because it's distinctive in a world of gray. It's color in, you know, amidst all the sepia tone sort of stuff. And it's useful in regards to what the company needs for their own sake of profit and revenue and so on. It clearly works on an analytical and engagement point of view. But for your own mental well-being, I feel like you should try and shut out as much of this stuff as possible. And with regards to shutting it out, that kind of entails not keeping up with the times. But at the same time, you can't not keep up with the times, because then you end up getting further and further removed from reality as it kind of is. And it's important to try and stay grounded in the world that you've got around you. Like, I don't know if any of you have got a friend who's like way more into tech than you, and it feels like whenever you go to see them, it's like they're living in the future and they've always got some new bit of tech to show you. I've got a couple of friends that are kind of like that. I remember I went to one of their houses and he brought out a VR headset, right? And I kind of thought, oh, okay, I'll give VR a go. I wasn't expecting much out of it. So I stuck the VR on, and it put me through this sort of I think it was the metaverse thing, right? So I put it on, and the metaverse, whoosh, like that. And it was like being in, what's the film? Ready, Set, Kill, Ready, Set, Go. The Steven Spielberg thing where it's all about the lads that live in the video game, right? It was all kind of feeling like that. And then he made me play this game where I played some kind of gorilla, and basically how it worked is I had to kind of do that, boom, waboom, to kind of move around, right? And sort of bounce and hop from spot to spot. And I was wandering around, it was all these kind of PS1 kind of graphics, and I was like, okay, I can get behind this. And then this random kid just came screeching up to me. I scream, right? And he just starts teaching me how to play the game. And I'm kind of like, look, honestly, I am not the person that you want to be doing this to. I am a lost cause, right? I haven't really progressed past 2015. I feel like the last innovation that I really need in my life was Google Drive. Google Drive has been really useful for me. I back so much stuff on that. I've got like a few different Google accounts, and I use them for different things. Some to store music, some to store old bits of video, some to store like stuff that I'm going to send to clients, etc., etc. And it's useful in that regard. The cloud sharing thing is a godsend, because the alternative would be having to send mail USBs or external hard drives and stuff, and that would require, one, I have to buy the hard drives, two, I've got to pay for the shipping, and three, I've got to wait. And honestly, fuck all of that. So, you know, technology is good and technology is useful, and I want to try and keep up with the times, but I think it's important to not allow the extreme amount of new things that are going on, because if you allow yourself to be immersed in the new, right? There's always a new thing coming out. There's a new PS5 coming out, PS5 Pro. It might already be out, I'm not sure. There's a new Xbox coming out. There's a like Switch 2, I think that's out. There's like new Mario games, and getting away from video games for a sec. There's all the VR, and then there's all the Oculus stuff, and then there's that like Elon Musk chip in the brain thing. I think he's been starting on that. There's all the going up to the moon, like all the SpaceX stuff. There's so much stuff. There's, you know, the upgrades with regards to cars, you know, electric cars and then hybrids, and they're getting more and more efficient and all this sort of stuff. There's so much going on in terms of progress. The cost of solar panels has just is plummeted. And there's so much going on that if you were to take someone from the year 2000 and plonk them in this world now with all of these fucking things, yeah, sure, they might have a bit of experience with a Motorola or like a Sony Xperia, although that was slightly after the year 2000. You know, they have a little bit of experience with mobile phones and stuff, but you bring one of these fuckers out to them, they're not going to know what to do. Right? They're not going to understand Facebook. Like, yeah, sure, they might have had, I think even MySpace wasn't around then, but you know, they vaguely had a sense through AOL and stuff like that of the ideas of what social media could do. But seeing the overwhelming innovation that has come from the social media landscape, I mean, look at the way that communities come together all across the world on platforms like TikTok, when you've got like those TikTok lives and all that kind of stuff. You've got live streamers on Twitch that people gravitate towards, and it's like their comfort thing, and they go to that live streamer again and again and again, and they form little communities and they make friends with one another. And you know, I've heard of people that have gotten married that originally met on the internet. I've known a couple couples that met on Tinder. I've met a couple people that have met like originally just texting on Discord and stuff like that, and then they came together in real life and they found that they really liked each other's company, and then they shifted from an online relationship, not as in like necessarily a romantic relationship, but just a relationship in general of like how you might have a relationship with anybody, even an acquaintance. They've gone from that to an in real life one. Now personally, I will always say that an in real life relationship is vastly superior to an online relationship, but that's not to say that online relationships don't have their own intrigues to them. Partly what's so amazing is that I can just talk to anybody across the world. I know a couple people at the moment from this channel who got in touch. They live in Tokyo, and we've kind of been talking and had a couple like Discord calls and stuff like that. And it's really cool to hear about the Tokyo sort of world because it's so vastly different from mine, and seeing it from their perspective, because they're just a guy on the ground the way that I'm a guy on the ground in London. You know, and all they might see of London is, you know, various influencers hanging around, you know, Westminster or Abbey Road or whatever, and they only see that. They don't see the real London that I see. So I can sort of put my experiences towards them, and they can put their experiences towards me. And I feel like for a collectivization of the human race, the internet is quite a good thing. But I feel like as we progress into the future, things are only going to get faster and faster with the advent of AI, with the advent of VR, with the advent of all these weird new technologies and like mechanoid robots and stuff that are all like automating the industrial processes and stuff like that. We're going to have to figure out something with regards to how we're going to keep everyone employed and in work and all that sort of stuff. You know, because obviously we know we've had various industrial revolutions or enlightenments before, and we managed to overcome them, but this is kind of a bit different because of just the sheer scale of it. But then the Industrial Revolution was a massive scale shift, and we managed to overcome that. So there's so many different questions that go into what the future is. It's such an uncertain thing. The past is more or less certain. All we can disagree on is like, did this happen or did this happen? But at some point, one of those things did happen. There is a fixed reality of history, the same way there's a fixed reality of the present. There is no fixed reality with regards to the future. The future is whatever we can make of it. And as a human race, we're doing a hell of a lot more than you could ever fully realize, because you ever get the science and technology recommendations on your phone, and or like the new, like, I don't know, the new iPhone news, and like you see what the new phones can do. Most phones don't look like this, with cracks all around the side, and like it's kind of thick, and it's got a headphone jack in it, which actually is quite useful. But you know what? Look at it. Look at the size of that camera. These cameras are tiny, but we're managing to make such interesting technology out of this, and the technology of camera equipment in general is just progressing and progressing and progressing. It's democratizing the film industry, and it's democratizing the way that we can create, and now just any old jack-off can just make whatever they want, hence this video. So there's so much going on with regards to what we can do with ourselves going forwards. But think about this, right? At some point, if you're not already, you're going to be an old person, right? You're not going to be the hip new thing. Something else will be the hip new thing. What's the Grandpa Simpson thing of like, I used to be with it, but then they changed what it is, and then I wasn't with it. And then what was it was weird and scary to me. I completely butchered the quote, but it's that kind of thing. And I feel like you're gonna have to semi-embrace that. You're gonna have to be comfortable with your position in the past, but at the same time, don't block off news from the future, as in what's gonna happen. Don't stop thinking about where the world could go. And I feel like as a human species in general, we should be really looking at the development of our species and our society on a more long-term level. Like, you never hear of anyone seriously talking about what the world will be like in 2200. It's just kind of like ooh, there'll be flying cars, ooh, there'll be like giant skyscrapers, ooh, we'll be a spacefaring like society. We don't know that for a fact, but what can we do to try and get ourselves to those cornerstones when we're at the moment relying on, say, fossil fuels that are going to run out at a certain point, when we're relying on non-renewables and all these sort of things? How are we going to make that transition towards a future? And I don't want to turn this into like, ooh, you need to invest in green energy sort of thing. I'm just sort of saying that you need to prepare for the future so that you can prepare to be complacent with your position in the present, as in the present now. You in the future needs to be complacent with where they are in that present, and they also need to have their same connection to the past. Like, obviously, if you're 50 years old, you've got like a deep connection to like 30 years ago, because that was you when you were like quite young and learning the world that's around you, and you're developing and growing and all that stuff. And now you're taking the lessons that you learned from your youth and applying them to your life as a more matured sort of individual. And then going forward, if you're like 70 or 80 or 90, that's when you're kind of trying to figure out your place in a world that has moved past you. Because say someone that's 90 right now, they were born in 1934, so they would have been turning 18 in 1952. Now, I can't really imagine what 1952 was like, because it's such a vastly different system in general. Like, obviously you have the basics. You've got, you know, your house, and then you leave your house to go to the shop, but then they wouldn't have gone to Sainsbury's or Lidl. They would have gone to the butchers and the bakers and all of these sort of things, and the, you know, that kind of thing. And that's such a different world that when you grow into the 2010s and the 2020s, you're kind of looking at it kind of going, Jesus Christ, smartphones, Sainsbury's, this all feels so weird and foreign to me. And in the year 2080, when I'm 80 years old, it's all going to be the same for me, and I'm going to have to try and adjust to a world that's moved past me, and I'm going to have to try and get used to teleportation devices, or I don't know, chips in the brain, or I don't know, taking a holiday to fucking Mars or Venus or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. We might not even get to that point. We might blow ourselves up in nuclear Armageddon. I'm not sure, because we can't be certain about the future. I mean, isn't the doomsday clock like apparently 40 seconds to midnight? And like, we're all just kind of going along, just driving up and down the road, just like nothing's bothering us. And I mean, driving is one of the most dangerous things you can do. I mean, I remember I was walking through an estate, and there was like an Ocado van, right? It's some like shopping delivery thing that delivers your food for posh people, right? And there was this over sort of drive-through bit like that was like 2 meters tall, and this van just stormed straight through it. It obviously underestimated its height, right? And it slammed straight into it. And I remember seeing that, and it all happened so quickly, and it wasn't like it was a bad crash or anything. I mean, the guy stepped out and he was a bit like, oh my God. And I presume he got fired and maybe like had to pay some money out or whatever. But anyway, I was walking around and I was just looking at all the cars, and I was on the pavement, and I was just thinking at any moment one of them like could just decide to do this and just kill me right like that. And we're all just going up and down like this is normal, you know. And by the same token, we've got nuclear weapons all over the place, and we're just like acting like that's whatever, really. And you know, with the advent of AI, we can program new diseases apparently, and that's fun. So we've got a lot of quite negative things to look forward to in the future, but we've also got a lot of positive things to look forward to in terms of the technology that's going to come around and how we can make use of it. I mean, like, now I've got the smartphone, I'm getting used to it. I kind of like it. It's nice being able to sit on YouTube whenever I want. It's nice being able to check my emails whenever I want. It's nice being able to, I don't know, just scroll through Reddit when I'm waiting for the bus or whatever. It's nice to do these things, but I don't know. part of me feels like I didn't grow past 2015 in terms of, that's when I stopped bothering, checking out the new stuff, right? In terms of technology and the new advents of whatever, right? For me, Google Drive happened, I'm content, right? I don't need anything else. So, but I can't think like that in the long term, because at some point that would mean, like, the equivalent would be, say if it was the year 2040, it would be like someone like me now still using pagers and fax. So I can't keep up doing that. At some point I do need to progress and keep up and update my understanding of technology to the new norm, and I have to do that a few times across the span of my life, so that I just stay, like, it's the same way that someone who's 90 gets a smartphone, right? If I was 90 and I was getting a smartphone, it would terrify me. Like, the idea of just pressing the screen, a bit of glass, and a thing updates, like, that's, to me, is just that would be alien technology. I wouldn't be able to get my head around. I wouldn't be able to get my head around the idea that there's just millions of people out there making content on some website called YouTube or TikTok or Twitter or whatever, right? And I can just play it and it just looks like real life in full HD or 4K on this tiny little screen that's that thick. I wouldn't know how to cope with that. That'd be really, really, really weird. And, you know, I can just sit here and just kind of wander through my phone and just kind of scroll up and down and go, oh, yep, okay, blah, 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 okay, bored. And then you get bored and complacent with this new technology, and at some point there's going to be crazy things that, you know, like the smartphone to someone living in 1960 is a major development. That's like science fiction. That's more than science fiction, because you look at the science fiction then, they've all got like big CRT TV screens, and we've actually more developed than the science fiction of the day thought we would get to. We're going to get to the point where all of this stuff is old hat. And this looks like the giant supercomputers that sent man to the moon. And this will look like your big box TVs that were in black and white. This is going to be that kind of technology. And I can't fathom what that is going to look like. And I don't know whether I'm going to be able to keep up with that. But I'm going to have to try. But at the same time, I've got to try and shut out the noise of the stuff that doesn't matter to me and focus on the stuff that does, as regarding technology. Because I can't go through life and not try and keep up to date, because otherwise I'll end up out of touch, and that's going to become a bit of a problem in the long run, because I've got the rest of life to look forward to, and if not me, then someone else has a whole, like, another 70 years of this that they've got to live through, and that's 70 years of development. 70 years ago, it was 1954, right? That is a long time ago. That's an incredibly long time ago. And 70 years from now, it's going to be the year 2094. The same stretch of time, right? And what's going to be the technology in 2094? I couldn't fucking tell you. No one could tell you. And if you're watching this in the year 2094, then look at the thing you're watching this on and go, oh yeah. Maybe you're watching it like through your eyes, and your eyes have screens in them. Or maybe it's like you can taste the video, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you're fully immersed in this thing and like AI has like extrapolated this entire world, and you can jump into my world and see what's going on over there, and you can just walk around. And they've managed to take Google Maps Street View and turn it into something that's applicable in every single place, in every single house, on every single street, in every single country, is completely accessible, and everything can be seen by everybody. Maybe that's what people mean when they say privacy is dying, and maybe by the time that I'm 90, there will be no such thing as privacy anymore. Or maybe it will go completely the other way around, and there'll be some kind of privacy revolution, and everyone will become completely shut in, and no one will really talk to each other. Maybe it will go so far the other extreme. I don't know. I really don't have a clue. But I just know that I've got to keep up. I've got to keep up with what's going on, because if I don't, then I'm just gonna be... You see wretched, like, people that are just like really miserable and just like moaning about the modern world and all this sort of stuff, and you just look at them and you're like, oh, come on, the modern world's not that bad. Like, I know I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be moaning about the politics of the day in the year 2070, and my grandkid will go, Granddaddy, can you stop bitching and moaning, please? And I'll be there like, yeah, but you don't understand what it was like in my day. Back in my day, we had to, like, I don't know, we had to make YouTube videos for a living. or whatever, I don't know. Or, you know, we had to actually work and graft, but then, you know, people for me now are saying the same thing. And then I bet people back then, their grandparents or their great-grandparents were saying the same thing, and so on and so forth, back through the ages. So people don't change, it's just the circumstances change. Like, would I be the same person 100 years ago? Obviously slightly different based on the context around me. I would talk a little bit different. I would use the mannerisms of the day. That's another thing. Language is going to change. Like, you know, all the slang, I'm going to be stuck saying sick. Sick is a very 2010s sort of thing. Like, am I going to be saying, oh, that's sick, fam? I mean, I don't really use that kind of, but I kind of started using it ironically. Oh, that's sick, fam. Yeah, cuz. You know, I kind of, you start saying it ironically, and then you start saying it just as you're saying it, and then you get bored of it, and then you move on to the next thing. You know, am I going to be still saying those sort of words in the year 2070? Because back then they'll have new words that'll make skibbity look like, ooh, good gracious, I can't think of any slang from the 1950s right now. Rubber Johnny, rubber ducks. I don't know what I'm fucking saying at this point. Look, I think the video's over. I think there's nothing else to really add. Just try and stick to the bits of information that are kind of important with regards to new technology that are coming in. At some point there'll be a new revolutionary kind of thing like a smartphone. Eventually you'll have to adopt it, and then there'll be a new thing and a new thing, and like, just accept it, because if you don't and you try and Luddite yourself, then you're just going to end up miserable, and you're going to end up behind the times, and then you'll be out of touch with the rest of your community, and it'll make it harder for you to make new connections with others. So yeah, that's going to be everything from me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of the day. I know it was a little bit rambly. I feel like I made the same kind of few points a few times, but you know, it's a quite an abstract topic, the future, because it doesn't exist technically. Like, 1 second from now is always the future, right? It's the same way that 20,000 years from now is always the future. The only difference is that 1 second updates. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Have a good rest of the day, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh. So yeah, isn't it crazy that we've got phones like this? Look at that. Mad, isn't it?